Hi, welcome back to Top Hat Films, the channel dedicated to giving film reviews and opinions on the hot films releasing at the moment. Now, it's been a while since my last film review of a recent film. In fact, it was the last film I did review was Megan, which was a good while ago now. But today we're going to be going back to the production company which I did my first review on, Marvel. If you haven't been living under a rock, you probably know about the recent release of the third Ant-Man film, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which released a couple of weeks ago now. Now, upon release, the film wasn't really in the best limelight. It actually got really bad reviews on Rotten Tomatoes by critics before the film even released. This made fans feel a bit anxious going into the film, expecting it not to be as great as they thought. And after the last few films Marvel have released, this is a bit of a shock, especially as it's starting a new phase, Phase 5. The film actually debuted as a 63% on Rotten Tomatoes, which isn't awful, but it then dropped to about 47%, parring with Eternals, making it the joint lowest rated Marvel film ever. Now, as weeks rolled by and the audiences were able to see it, the audience score started to roll out, and these were more promising. They were actually coming in at about 80%, and these were good times for Marvel because it was showing that there's a bit of improvement here. Now, I can't lie for myself, I was also a bit worried for this film. Going into it, with these low kind of reviews coming out, I was worried about that it wasn't going to live up to, not expectation, but just wasn't going to be a good film for a start of a new phase. I was a bit worried about that it was going to be lackluster. I kind of expected so much more, especially introducing such a big character like Kang, which Marvel fans know this is going to have a big role in the future of the MCU. So I was excited to see this, and to hear these bad things, I was a bit disappointed because it should be this big introduction. It should be amazing. It should be big, and that's something I wanted, and I was very worried going into this film. Now, before I even start the review, I think I should mention that I found this film really enjoyable. Going into it with being anxious about how good it's going to be was probably the better thing, because I left saying that actually wasn't that bad. The reviews are very low for what it is. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun film, but it does have its flaws, and I think it does deserve to be critiqued on its flaws, and that's something we will review in this video. Now, as mentioned, the hate for this film is based on a few things. The CGI, the dialogue, and sometimes the storyline even gets involved in making this film not as great. Now, getting off the bat, the film's a CGI fest. It takes place in, obviously, the quantum realm, which is obviously not a real place, so it's all made up from CGI, which, as a whole, I think it was done perfectly. I think the whole place looked really cool. It did give me I was talking to some of my mates when we went to see it. It gave me very much Star Wars vibes, and I feel like Peyton Reed was something he wanted to achieve. There's a lot of these kind of modern references to films like Back to the Future and Star Wars, like I mentioned, and then I thought the whole world was done really well. The only bad CGI that I can really mention is it's mainly in the fact of Cassie when she shrinks down and becomes her superhero. When she's running, it just looks off. It doesn't look as natural as when Scott Lang's Ant-Man does it or the Wasp does it. It just seems really clunky and horrible. Now, the CGI of the character MODOK, who was introduced into the film, was also hated on massively. Everyone said he looked really stupid. Everyone said that he didn't look right, which is it's caused a lot of controversy between fans and in the community, because everyone's saying, "Oh, this is how he's meant to look. This is how he looks in the comics. You can't do him right. You can't. There's no way you're going to do him right in a film because he looks stupid anyway, and he's just a massive head in a machine." So. But I thought Marvel did it really well. There was moments where it did look weird, but I thought that were funny in a sense. Now, sticking with the character MODOK, I think it's also important to critique the fact that his character kind of was wasted. In the comics, he's this bad character, and his name's even a mechanized organism designed for killing, and he doesn't really kill anyone in this film. Maybe the wall scene when he attacks where Scott Lang and Cassie is, but other than that, he's washed down basically, and I feel like that's a missed opportunity. And now we're not going to get that character back because obviously he's dead now. But yeah, I thought it was a massively washed up character, and it's a shame that we won't get to see him in the future, because it's quite a big part in the MCU. Now, moving on to the film's main antagonist, which was Kang the Conqueror, I thought it was done perfectly. Jonathan Majors does a perfect job at performing this big villain kind of character. The first introduction, he's seen as this weak person who's been evicted to this quantum realm, and he's seen as kind of, he puts on this good act that he's innocent and he's got no hate towards anyone, but then he snaps instantly, and I thought that was done perfectly. I think he's a brilliant actor, and I can't wait to see him in Creed 3 this week, which comes out. I just think all around he did a really good job. However, I do feel like his character was also maybe a bit washed down. He's this big character, and we do see his powers that, like, when Scott and Cassie are in prison, the powers he uses to make them float was threatening, and it was a really intense scene. But then when he's fighting him, he doesn't really use these powers. He just seems a little weak. And then obviously the ants which take over him, it makes sense, but it just kind of, like I said, washes down a character. And I do hope, and I think we will see him in the future, and I hope we do, because there's all talks that he goes to the end of time because the time whatever the timekeeper is down there, which should be interesting. But I am also excited to see the other variants of him that we have seen in the post-credit scenes, which we'll get onto very soon. Now, overall, I thought the storyline flowed. I thought it flowed well, to be honest. It was a nice, enjoyable heist kind of time heist movie, which I thought was very interesting. The only problem with it, though, it's just the third film of Ant-Man's trilogy, and every other third film has kind of had this big loss in it and a big effect. This one lacked that. The end, he gets out the quantum realm and he lives his life as normal, and it's like, yes, he's got the mind that Kang is going to come at some point, but it's not like, I was kind of expecting him to get stuck in there or lose someone, and it's morbid, I know, but I just thought that was going to happen. I thought we was going to have some kind of sad moment, especially for the third film, when you compare it to like Spider-Man, Captain America, and all the other films. Now, moving on to the post-credit scenes, there was two in this film, two very good ones as well. The first one was it was the Kang variants. I'm never going to be able to remember the names, but the three of the big Kang variants was talking about how this banished one has now being killed or taken out, basically, and it's like talking about how they're all coming together in this Kang kind of conference place, and it cuts to this Colosseum full of Kang variants. Now, I did think this was funny. I thought it was funny to see all these Kangs getting hyped up about it, but what I don't like about this kind of thing, and I know it's to do with the comics, and you can't really replace that fact, but when you've got a character that there's so many different variants, I'm not going to care for this certain Kang anymore or the other Kang, because there's going to be more. It's kind of it's defeating like a massive purpose. It's like the multiverse problem with how, oh yeah, Iron Man's dead in Endgame. It was sad, but he could be in another universe and he could come back, and I really don't like that. I think it's poor writing. And I know like the comics is a big part of that, but I just think it's very, it doesn't make me feel attached to any characters. I liked He Who Remains in Loki, but that in Loki we had He Who Remains, who I thought was a very lovable character, an enjoyable character, but now that there's different variants, and there could be another one of them out there, it's not like now he's dead. It's not like, oh, he's dead, that's sad. It's more like, oh, well, there's another one out there, we'll probably meet him at some point. And it's just a bit disappointing. I feel like that's the issue they've got at Marvel at the minute. And I hope they kind of find a way to swerve away from that fact, because it's just, it's a bit, it doesn't give you that connection as much as it did the last few phases. Now, the final post-credit scene was a teaser for the next season of Loki. Introduced Victor Timely, I believe his name is, performing a kind of a conference, a TED talk about how time can be used in front of a massive crowd in the 1920s. The crowd obviously consists Loki and what's his name now? Owen Wilson's character, I forget his name, but they're in the crowd, and it's basically this scene to show that this is going to be a scene. This is what we're going to be looking to Loki. It was this teaser. It was nice. I really liked it. I thought it was a good addition. Going to the film as a whole, I thought this film was very enjoyable. I do think it's massively hated on, and I think that is the main reason for why I like this film a lot, because I just didn't agree with the opinions, and I thought no, that I just thought all round it was an enjoyable film, and hence why I've given it a 3.5 stars out of 5. It's not the best introduction to a new phase, but it's also not the worst. I don't think it should be classed as the worst Marvel film. Neither should Eternals, if I'm honest. But the critics has always had kind of an agenda against superhero films as a whole, unless they're spectacular. So yeah, I thought the film was very enjoyable. I did like a lot of the characters that were introduced to. I also liked the storyline. It's definitely one of them films that I'm going to watch in the future again, just to see all these small things that I probably missed in the first time of watching. But overall, it was an enjoyable film. Now, if you did like this video, please remember to feel free to like and potentially subscribe, and also feel free to check out my other socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Top Hat Films. Thank you for watching. I've been Top Hat Films. Goodbye.